All rise for the Honorable Judge Capdeville.
You may be seated. Man, that actually feels good, Judge Capdeville. Has a nice ring to it. I'm joining the great ranks of Mathis and Judy. Welcome, everyone, to Rule of Thirds, your favorite film culture podcast, of course. Today we have another debate, but the twist is, despite being in the same room as Max, I'm not yelling at him this episode. The debate is actually between Max and Larry, and it was hinted at last review. It is the debate of Exposition. And it might be a short one because we're not sure if Larry knows what Exposition is. But we'll find out. Cliffhanger to the intro. Until we find out if he knows what this debate's even on. My name is Sean.
My name is Larry.
And my name is Max.
And get ready for another Rule of Thirds debate.
Let's go!
Loud. You spiked it. And the walls are thin. Shush. Okay, everyone, so welcome back. We're going to jump right to it. By that, I mean we're going to delay and do a segment before we jump right to it. We're going to jump right to that segment. By that, I mean I'm going to do this long-winded kind of intro into that segment, which I hope is kind of funny, but now it's gone too long. Anyway, it's a community segment. So we have our obligatory comments from Whitley and Seth. Well, actually, I haven't read these. Let me just skim them to make sure that... Okay, so Seth says top three openings. Number 3 is for him is The Big Lebowski. I haven't seen it. 2 is The Incredibles, and it does have a good intro. And
it really does. It's like it just brings together both superhero and classic spy movies. It's really nice.
And then The Avengers is his number 1.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's okay, but I don't know the beginning.
I mean, I think that's what a lot of people have a problem with, the fact that it's just kind of very not Avengers. It doesn't it's not a great hook, but whatever.
Well, I think the opening is good. I don't know if it's great, number 1, but hey, who knows?
Mm-hmm. And he mentioned Goblet of Fire as an honorable mention, and I like that. I like how it just jumps right into it.
Yeah, good opening.
I recently just watched that. Yeah, it's a good intro. And then he says, because I like giving 8 bajillion replies, and he has done quite a few replies, can we do an episode on video games? We did,
and I mean, E3 is coming up in a few weeks. Actually, it's next week or 2 weeks from now. We could do another one. Just take a break from films and stuff and just talk about the games announced at E3.
Yeah, but that might also be when we have to do review Jurassic World. So we'll see if it works out. But we did. You can go listen to that if you haven't yet. We did one a while ago.
Yeah, it was fun.
And then Whitley says, I remember Polaroids. Deagle was Gollum's best friend, not his brother. I'm pretty sure it's actually his cousin. I realized I got it mixed up. I feel like they're related, but whatever. His number 3 for film openings is Deliver Us from Prince of Egypt, which I do remember is very good
Prince
opening.
Of Egypt, man, that movie is so good.
Castle in the Sky. Shocker. And Schindler's List is his number 1 opening.
The opening. Oh, there's Kiddush and Schindler's List. Oh, that just gets me. I was raised Jewish, so that
Yep,
hits
same
home.
here. I am Jewish still, so.
Anyway, the honorable mentions are from other Princess Mononoke, not surprising, and Summer Wars. I don't know what Summer Wars.
I believe that is another Japanese animated film.
What a shocker. This community segment's full of shocks from Larry, from Whitley, just from everybody. But let's move on to the debate.
Thanks, Sean.
Hold on.
Great shot.
I have an announcement. to make.
Oh, right. He built up making me super jealous. Let's see if I actually am.
Wait, what?
By the time you hear this recording, I will have gone to the U.S. nationwide premiere of Inside Out for free. And not only that, there will be a director Q&A with Pete Docter right afterwards. I will be seeing it 10 days early.
Whoa. Really?
Oh, okay.
That's cool. Good for you, buddy.
I'm not that excited for it.
How'd you get access?
I'm looking forward to it, but
But you love Up. I mean, look.
Yeah.
Have you seen that second trailer? Oh, it's wonderful.
How'd you get access?
Congratulations, but I mean...
Yeah. I mean, I won't tell you guys about it. And if it pleases the court, I will go see with you again, unless I can't stand it or something. So, but I'm really excited. It's a free thing that comes with this internship program.
Oh, it comes with your internship. Okay,
yes,
gotcha.
Yes,
gotcha.
It's one of the things. I'll be also seeing Back to the Future in live concert.
Oh my God, are you serious?
At the Hollywood Bowl. Yeah.
Oh my God.
30th anniversary screening. Yeah,
that is awesome.
I saw that email. I'm like, this is it.
I've ascended this heaven. I've ascended to a heavenly plane.
All right, Larry, we have to stop talking
it's-
like adults and we get to debating.
All
It sucks.
right.
I can't talk about the cool stuff that comes with my internship. I'm legally unable to tell you. It sucks.
But I'll tell you, it's some pretty cool stuff, probably, right?
It's very cool
It's
stuff.
probably awesome.
Especially we got a new project in about this actor that I really like, and he's in it. I'm like, oh, I'm looking forward to seeing some footage if I can. But we are going to get to the debate.
Yeah.
And the debate is, how do you put it? It's the exposition debate. It's basically Larry's on the side of what exactly? Well, it's more Max's anti-exposition.
It's about the value of exposition.
That's a good way to put it. The value of exposition. Now, I would like to just, for the record, before we really get into this, just say what exposition is. Exposition is when a character in dialogue explains something, or does like maybe an anecdote about, like, they'll just say, here's how this world works, or here's my backstory in a few sentences, or here's this character's backstory. Exposition is kind of it's just kind of spelled out. It's just said by a character to establish world, to establish character, story, whatever it need be.
I had like 3 snarky comments to throw in there, but I decided just to keep it neutral.
See, Larry, that's kind of the problem. That we're going into this.
I don't disagree. I actually I do. I disagree with that definition.
You can't. That's kind of the problem with this. I felt like this was going to be an interesting debate because, Larry, that's
What is your definition of exposition, Larry?
I was thinking about it because I wanted to just preface my personal side of this debate with this. After we recorded that episode, and I was thinking back about your comments because I called the montage up, for those who were not there, I called that exposition. And Sean and Max were vehemently opposed to that, to what I said. And after the episode, I said, yeah, you're right, that's probably not exposition. I mean, I don't know, maybe I just got into it too much or whatever. So I was looking up, in research for this debate, what kinds of exposition are there? What are some of my favorite examples of exposition? And in my opinion, exposition as dialogue, I don't think the best word for it is dialogue. I think the best word for exposition is details.
No.
It's information.
That's exactly the opposite. Exposition, that's a good way to put it. Exposition is just like listing of information.
Mm-hmm. It can come in the voice. It can come in the form
Which
of
is details.
a character, a voiceover. Usually, either one of those. Like if it's somebody reading a book aloud, of like long ago in the it's anything like that.
I know, and I get it. It has to be dialogue. That I get, but I don't think.
Actually, it doesn't need to be dialogue. It can be just words on the screen.
Yeah,
for
it can be
example,
words
Star
on the
Wars
screen
opening.
too. That works fine also. But I don't think that just thinking of exposition as simply dumping information on everybody is the right way to think about exposition.
All right,
I think that's a bit.
Take you on that.
It's
I'll
a
take
bit
you on that.
too
Okay.
derogatory.
That's a better way to frame the debate, maybe. Like, kind of like, that's not a good way to put it, and you kind of defend why you think that's unfair. Max defends why he does. Okay.
Wait, well,
so
Max, do you believe that exposition is simply dumping information?
I mean, yeah. Well,
okay, in more or less terms, I want to step out. So
Yes, and I would
I'll
like to.
declare the debate open.
Okay.
As soon as I'm done with this sentence. So that's kind of the new frame. Sorry it took a while to get here, but that's kind of the new frame. So Max, Larry, have at it. I'm gonna, I don't know,
Okay.
tweet or something.
So Max, let's talk about this. So in my opinion, exposition is, and I found this definition, which I actually do like, from Lehman. I can't remember his first name. Lehman, writer of North by Northwest, Sound of Music, West Side Story, brilliant screenwriter. He says it's the part of a play or a work of fiction in which the background to the main conflict is introduced. That is what exposition is, right? And that is usually done through dialogue. Now, that dialogue can be either a voiceover narration, which is a common thing, or it can be a discussion, right, between two different characters, or it could even be like a newspaper headline.
Yes, to all of those things.
Yes, several different movies have done that.
Actually, wait. I don't know if that last newspaper headline thing is true.
It gives
Judge
away details
Captain-
through text. Why wouldn't it be exposition?
Judge Captiville, if you could, please look up a hard definition of exposition as not based on just assumption. You're a judge, you have to do something.
Larry doesn't.
You don't even have a gavel. What kind of judge are you?
Oh, there it is. Exposition narrative from Wikipedia.
Yeah, and this can come from not just film, but from any sort of media.
Narrative, simply, exposition is the insertion of important background information within a story. For example, information about the setting, characters' backstories, prior plot events, historical context, in specifically literary context. Exposition appears in the form of expository writing embedded within the narrative. So here's actually good. Exposition is one of the four rhetorical modes, also known as modes of discourse, along with description, argumentation, and narration. That's a good way to distinguish.
Yeah, so it is different from narration.
Although a voiceover narrator can give exposition.
No, I think as in not narration, as in like narrative going forward. It's not exposition is not like detailing the story, it's just giving information. Anyway, but we are stuck on semantics when we need to be getting to the value of it in the first place.
Right. So I guess as sort of a opening statement of sorts, I believe that exposition is important. It is not an evil. Some people would like to call it a necessary evil, but I don't even think it's an evil if used correctly. Obviously, exposition can be turned into something that is absolutely painful. For example, yesterday I was watching Mortal Kombat the movie. Terrible movie. Just terrible. One of the main reasons is that half of the scenes are simply characters talking about details, plot details, what's happening, how does this work, how do I fit into this role. That's boring. But if exposition can be handled more visually, along with narration, Casablanca sort of does this in the beginning, right?
Star Wars, every single Star Wars movie begins with a giant exposition dump, and nobody seems to point that out.
Yeah, and you know what? I don't mind. If I like the setting, if I like the lore, if I like the character who's talking, I don't mind hearing them talk. I don't mind learning new details. I don't mind exploring a world. Because so many people just think, when they think of exposition, they just think of two characters talking back and forth, blah, blah, blah. But exposition is more than just that. It is expanding upon a film. It is learning details. It is making you feel like you're a part of the film. You learn details, and thus you can sort of put yourself even more so into the film. And to be fair, while some films do not give you the details, and thus that makes it more interesting, which admittedly has been done many a time, I still think I know Max, you think that films have to stop because exposition is being said. I disagree. Films can easily move forward in more ways than one if they just decide to sit down and think and discuss something.
Ladies and gentlemen of the court, let me ask you a question. Filmmaking, film narrative. What is a principle of film narrative? Judge Capdeville, what? It's a simple little phrase. 3 little words.
I'm not supposed to be. Stop talking to me. I'm not supposed to be here.
Well, you're the judge. You're in the room.
Also, you know what? The judge rules I will not tolerate such pretentiousness. So just say what you're going to say, Max.
Show, don't tell. Exposition flies in the face of showing, not telling. By telling us what the writers believe we need to know, we effectively take away some of the magic of discovering ourselves. Exposition kills the sense of wonder and the sense of questioning that films and their narratives bring about inherently. Let me think of an example. So Star Wars, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that scene, that one of the most famous scenes in film history probably, where Luke Skywalker gets his lightsaber for the very first time?
Yeah.
And Obi-Wan Kenobi speaks to him about the dark times before the Empire.
Oh, gosh, it's a more civilized age. Before the dark times, before the Empire. Jeez, get it right. I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to be.
Judge Capdeville, that was more pretentious than anything I could have said.
No. Max, you need to change your tone, by the way. A little bit of high horse here.
Anyway, in that part, would it have made, remember when Obi-Wan mentioned that, it was the Clone Wars? Your father served in the Clone Wars? Isn't that the quote? Something of that nature?
Well, Luke asks him if he fought in the Clone Wars, and then...
See, that right there, that is perhaps one of the defining factors of what exposition could be. As opposed to just sitting down and telling us information, Obi-Wan, or George Lucas, the writer, essentially was doing a weird, wonderful thing called world building through simply hints. Exposition is a dump of information. That's a trickle. What are the Clone Wars? What was the Dark Times? Are we in the Dark Times? What is the Empire? What is all this stuff that's going on? Of course, you're not going to spend the rest of the movie just thinking, oh man, what are these things? Instead, the rest of the narrative plays out and you just watch it as it goes. But what this effectively does is create a much more interesting world without dumping all the information on you. It's all about, I mean, really, exposition can really be attributed to delivery and not necessarily the information given. It's more about how you deliver that information. It's the narrative in Star Wars: New Hope does not grind to a halt when Obi-Wan starts talking about the Dark Times, about, before the Empire. It was more or less bringing about this sense of wonder, the sense of what is this galaxy far, far away really all about? Where does it come from? As opposed to just like 30 years ago, there was a war. It was called the Clone Wars. Your father served in it. And then the dark, instead of that, it could even be a message of structure in dialogue itself, sentence structure. The exposition is just a dump. It's a waste of time on screen as opposed to building the sense of this awe, this whole thing that happens when you're watching a movie and you're astounded by what you're seeing, not what you're hearing. You know what I mean?
Yes, I think though that's situational. The idea that exposition simply has to be one character speaking details, and I think there is a way in which exposition can be given, which not only adds more of a visual flair, like showing things, but also allowing it to be an interaction between characters, right? And that I have other points I would like to talk about, but I think something that you said that really struck with me was it's about delivery and sentence structure, right?
It can be. I'm not saying it always is, but it can be a matter of how an actor delivers the lines that are supposed to be exposition.
Exactly. I think that plays into something I said earlier about the character speaking. If this character is a character that we have journeyed with throughout the film, if we like this character, I don't mind hearing him talk. I don't mind getting to learn things because the thing about Star Wars, it's something that you mentioned about Star Wars, the world is so expansive. I'd like to learn about the world. There are several moments in which Star Wars teaches us about the world through showing and also hinting, but you know what? I would like to learn of some history. I would like to learn of some of the various tales that people have gone on. And sometimes, you have to tell me. You can't just show me. Show don't tell is not just a matter of plot details. I think show don't tell is much more applicable to things like theme. I don't think show don't tell is something that can strictly be for exposition. You know what I mean?
Well, no, show don't tell is, for me, the principle of filmmaking. What makes visual media different from textual media or audible media. It's something it's something that you can't really do in any of the media, which is what I absolutely, condone for all art to be, to embrace its own uniqueness and how it's very building blocks can create an experience that is unique from any other media. So for exposition to have everybody stop and learn about the story or whatever, that's bad. Now, with that Star Wars scene, it was also cleverly used as a way to introduce Luke to the world as well. It wasn't just us learning about the exposition, which is a common trope in films. It was also Luke learning about the scope that he lives in, like why he needs, it's kind of that exposition is kind of the call to action of the famous hero's journey that Luke apparently goes on that every English teacher loves to point out. So what I think is that exposition is essentially a method by which information is given while having everything stop so the audience does not get lost. Now, I want to bring up a specific point that you mentioned to me a long time ago. And by a long time ago, I mean a few months ago.
How long ago?
Before the Dark Times, before the Empire, Larry mentioned something tonight.
It was about How to Train Your Dragon 2.
Here we go.
Oh, good.
Here we go.
And I don't recall the exact line, but you said they should have explained something. And completely objective, which I think is what led to this
Pretty
debate
much.
in the first place. You can all say it was all connected. How to Train Your Dragon 2's
Wonderful. Still remembering how bad that film is.
Go listen to that on royalthirds.com.
Yeah. Anyway, so I don't remember what you said exactly, Larry. But help me out here. What would you say? You said something about something was not explained at the beginning of the film, or something like that.
Well, it's been a while since I've seen How to Train Your Dragon 2. You know, after seeing it, I tried to wipe it from my memory as quickly as possible. But I think it's sort of borderline around the idea that, you know, if Hiccup had done maybe a better job at just sort of discussing his situation, perhaps it would have given us a bit more of a stake in the story. I'm not exactly, because like it's hard to remember, but the thing about How to Train Your Dragon 2 is that I feel a lot of the plot just sort of is muddled together, and it just sort of happens, and I lacked a true emotional connection, I think. And one of the reasons for that in How to Train Your Dragon 2 is just because I did not like Hiccup as a character this time around as much as I did in the first film. Because it was sort of how, like, it's like How to Train Your Dragon 2 did something Kung Fu Panda did. Because in Kung Fu Panda, he became the hero. Great, awesome. So what do we do in the sequel? Well, I guess we talk about his parents. Oh, okay. So that's what they did in How to Train Your Dragon 2. They brought his mother into the thing. But Hiccup doesn't... The change he goes through doesn't feel monumental to me. And I think
Larry, I'm not asking for a dissertation on How to Train Your Dragon 2.
What are you talking about?
Because I'm talking about the intro.
I know,
and
I'm
how
bringing it
you
forward.
said something to me. I don't remember what this quote was exactly, but you said to me that something about Hiccup could have been explained through exposition when it did not need to. This is the whole point of why I'm anti-exposition. People are asking for things to be explained in films that do not need to be explained. That's the big issue here. It's like, if you guys, listeners out there, you've probably watched Cinema Sins at some point. You know, maybe you've been enraged by it, maybe you've been entertained by it, but the point is, there's a thing that Cinema Sins does called the pronoun game, where a character and another character will basically talk about something that they both know they're talking about, and, like, it'll not entirely tell the audience what that is. It's just kind of up to the audience to take a hint. A good example of this is if you've ever seen Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2, Harry and Griphook, the goblin, basically say, "Where is it?" And the other character says, "It's complicated," and then they have basically the same interaction. That is the use of the pronoun game. That is actually a good facet of how dialogue works without going into exposition, because it's giving the audience a method to be clued in on what's going on without talking down to them. It's another facet of exposition, not trusting the audience's intelligence, which I think is an actual cardinal sin in the world of film writing. So exposition is basically kind of like an amalgamation of all I don't like about writing in film, right? At least right now, as a 20-year-old film student who doesn't know barely anything he's saying. So that's like that is my stance. And what I find every time in a movie that exposition has to grind, or the movie grinds to a halt, people have to explain. What I mean is that instead of just letting things happen and letting people just either wonder what's going on and not have to worry about it, or have it be explained to them visually, or perhaps through clever dialogue exchange, instead we have to stop and we have to make sure everybody's in the same boat. I would almost attribute this to voiceover. However, I think voiceover is actually being used in a much better way as the years go by. So I'm not going to jump on that. For example, I was watching the second trailer for the Inside Out trailer, the one that uses More Than a Feeling. That has an exposition voiceover completely, with Amy Poehler telling us how things work, basically.
However, we're also, just to step in as, I'm the trailer guy, I suppose, trailers do operate on a totally different set of rules.
Okay, that's true, but I think there is, exposition that we will most certainly hear in the film.
Perhaps sometimes it's recorded separately, sometimes it's cut and used in the trailer.
Yes, this is true. I just want to point out that, that kind of exposition I'm not entirely against, because first off, with movies marketed towards children, you gotta be fast, and you gotta just, get through the stuff, and you can't really have the time to explain everything slowly. And also because it does get, the main rules out of the way. Explaining the rules of the world does not get me as much as just, having everybody stop and be like, many years ago, there was a huge thing that happened. And then, it didn't happen. And then people were sad.
Well, that's important, though.
I don't think it is as much as people lead it up to be. For example, Lord of the Rings.
I was just about to bring that up. I think the beginning of the first film, which is, in your opinion, an exposition dump, I love that sequence.
It is.
I love it because it looks beautiful. The voiceover is very well delivered. Kate Blanchett for the win. And it allows me to have knowledge of the universe I'm about to invest myself in. And I like having knowledge. I like being given a little clue as to what I'm about to be dealing with. I like it. I think it allows what's the word? It assists in the film going experience to be clued in, to be given necessary knowledge that unfortunately can't always be given by simply visual storytelling. Not everything can be explained through a shot.
I totally think it can.
I don't.
If you're giving information that cannot be told through visual means, I don't think you're really right for this business, maybe. Like as a writer, if now the Lord of the Rings books are the Lord of the Rings books, or is it just one big book? I actually don't know.
What? Dude, it's three books, man.
Okay, I remember something about
Fellowship
them all
of the
being
Ring,
one
the Two
book.
Towers, and Return of the King.
Oh, that's right. Tolkien wanted it to be one book, and then his publisher was... Anyway, everybody, people have said that the Lord of the Rings books have always been the unfilmable, and I think that's because there's so much information to dump. Now, this is not to say that it's not entertaining. Like, I kind of like the opening, but it seems more of a cop-out. It does not introduce us to the character. The hook is that it's the backstory. The hook is that it's just, like, all this stuff that you need to know in order to understand it, which is why I think that it's a little bit problematic. Now, again, I do think it is exposition. I don't like using this word, but it's kind of, I would say it's objectively exposition. However, there are exceptions, and I'm not about to say the Lord of the Rings trilogy is bad because it relies on exposition at the beginning of the first piece. I would just say that it's much more on par with kind of taking the easy route and just kind of saying, all right, here's all this stuff, now let's go. It's like somebody coming out, at the beginning, I think it was Shakespeare, when they came out and they were like, Romeo and Juliet is a story of two star-crossed lovers. All right, bye, here's the story. It's kind of like that.
Yeah, it's
a
little weird. I always found that to be a weird part of Romeo and Juliet when this is just some random prologue.
In fair Verona, where we lay our scene.
Two lovers both alike in dignity.
Yeah.
Oh my god! What do you have that memorized?
I don't have it memorized. I just remember that line. I mean, it's a
yeah. I used
classic
to.
line.
Two households both alike in dignity. In fair Verona, where we lay our scene. Yeah.
That is exposition, and that I don't think was needed at all. In fact, I think it was taken out of the famous 1960-something film.
I'm gonna side with Larry because Shakespeare can't do wrong, Max. Anyway, continue.
Well. Certain plays, certain things.
Many people would consider him to be the greatest author ever. I have not read enough of his stuff to make such a claim, but
he's written some great things. Admittedly.
Yeah, he has. But the point is, I don't think Romeo and Juliet would have suffered if that hadn't been taken out. Of course, we're talking about historical context, and this was 600 years ago, and all that stuff. But based on the storytelling principles that we as a society follow today, as a storytelling people today, I don't think anything would have taken away from the narrative if that guy had been okay, you're fired. Let's just go with the opening act fight scene between the Capulets and the Montagues. That right there is a great use of show don't tell. It's not we must battle with them. It's just let's battle and just jump right into it. And it's whoa, what's going on here? What's the conflict? Bam, the conflict is right there. Instead of somebody stopping and it would have been different if a Capulet was walking around going, oh look, it's a Montague. They are enemies. That's exposition. That would have ruined the film, or that would have ruined the first.
That
book.
is in the first.
It is.
Yeah, they have to establish.
Sorry, I have to introduce. I saw Romeo and Juliet a dozen times. Stop looking at my notes.
I've read the play. I've seen the films.
Right, I saw it a dozen times because I was running sound for a film play production hybrid 2 summers ago. It was really fun, and yeah, they two swordsmen are there's our enemy.
Okay.
It's it's there.
Okay, fine. I will say that is not in the film version. Am I correct?
I don't know.
Who knows?
I think it wasn't. I'm pretty sure at the film version directed by, I don't remember, but it's the famous one with the 13-year-old girl.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But see, here's the thing, though. You keep saying exposition is just dumps, of information. But no, that is not correct in my opinion. Exposition can be dialogue between characters to give us information. It might not be as obvious, but again, exposition is the details. It's the background information that we need to know.
But what defines what we need to know?
What do you mean, what defines
what do we need? I mean, listen, Harry Potter, if we're going to go into this real quick, has a lot of details in the story. A lot. J.K. Rowling is famous for how much detail she puts into her stuff. do we really need to know every single part about it? Do we need to know every single family member in Ron's family? Do we need to know every single part of Hermione Granger's parents' dentist jobs? Like, do we need to know all these details? It's really a message of it's a matter of necessity, and I don't think a lot of the parts that are exposition in a lot of films are needed. You could just cut them out and they would be fine, because actions define characters, not what other characters have said about those characters.
Well, in my opinion, what defines what we need to know is what's essential to understanding the plot. Because this is something I actually never really realized until I started taking my film appreciation class. When people watch films, the first time they watch a film, usually the plot is really the main thing that they have to get through their head first. Because, it's brand new. It's a brand new kind of situation. They need to understand what's going on. Then after they watch it, second or third time, you start to get the details. Films like Memento, Shutter Island, even in some cases, Casablanca, in my opinion. You rewatch it. That's twice. I really got to watch it. When you rewatch a film, you get to see all the small details. That's when you get to see, like, okay, what did they do that was really smart? Shawshank Redemption, that's another great one. When you're watching a film for the first time, the most important thing, in my opinion, is to be sure the plot is well executed, it's well told, it's understandable, and you don't leave the audience asking simple questions. And now I'm not saying questions that are more bigger in scope, like about the characters, about their traits, about, how did this happen, how did this happen, more as for themes. I'm talking more so simple plot details, as what was his motivation? Why did you do this? How are these two even remotely related? Why should I care? Those are. I hate when I'm just watching a film and something happens and I feel like I have no idea. I feel like something was just dropped on me and there was no context, and then the film continues and as if it had already established a detail which it never did. So exposition is important in that regard. It's important to lay down plot foundation. Because
Okay, Larry. All right. You know what? I think I have a good way of convincing you why exposition is not needed.
You already...
There was a movie.
It's not like I disagree with your opinions, Max. I think that you have a good point. I'm just saying that I feel that exposition it can be done in ways that are enjoyable to watch. It's not always just a character dumping information.
All right, Larry. Here's a good way of putting it. Let's talk about a movie that you love, Larry. Whiplash. A movie that I love, too. So it begins.
A movie that I haven't seen.
I have it on Blu-ray. We will watch it at some point.
Yeah, dude, seriously, watch it.
It's got commentary with Damien Chazelle and J.K. Simmons.
That's awesome.
Amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Anyway, so that movie. What is the central antagonist of that movie? Terrence Fletcher, right? The evil... Yeah, evil.
Well, really, I think
teacher.
it's arguable the antagonist is something far bigger than just Fletcher, but,
Oh, okay, yes, but, like, the human antagonist, like the other main character is Fletcher.
Yes.
Is there ever a point where we learn Fletcher's background, why he is angry, anything like that, why he is so mean to everyone? Yes.
Well, yes, we do.
At the end of the film. However,
not necessarily at the end. It's more so at the beginning of the final third, I would say.
Okay, yes, then fine. Then there. For the first two acts, we don't get any sort of context. Remember, in the first scene, listeners who haven't seen Whiplash, I'm sorry, I'm gonna use this because Larry and I love this film, and I think this is a great way to explain this. He walks in, right? Fletcher walks in as he's playing the drums, and that dialogue conversation, can you give me? I don't remember what the exact terminology is. I'm not a music major, but like,
show me your double time swing.
Yeah, did I tell you to keep playing? That kind of thing. Right there, there's no exposition, and the fact that he comes back and he goes, "Oh, forgot my coat." And this is not a spoiler. This is the first scene of the movie, which is a great scene because we get all the information we need to know about Fletcher, both from the terms of the main character and how we perceive Terrence Fletcher. He's not messing around. He's impatient. He's rude. He's all these things, and the film continues to reinforce that. As it goes on, we continue to learn about Terrence Fletcher without knowing any information about him. He comes in with that whole bit about the guy who got in a car accident. I don't remember his name.
He plays the music. The trumpet player, I think.
Yeah. That part, it's like it feels out of place, but it's it's not like a student leaned over to oh man, what was his name? What's his name?
What?
Don't remember what his name is.
What? What? You mean
Miles Teller's main character? What is his name?
Dang it! I keep always. I know it's. I mean, because I love his performance, but his name isn't really thrown around very often.
Basically, no student leading over to Miles Teller goes. He's one of his favorites. You know, he gets very emotional at these times. We don't learn any of that stuff. We just see it happen. That's why Whiplash is such a success, because not only is it all the things that make a film good, like how I mean all the things I think make a film good. Also, its information is given to us so sparingly. But all that information is so important that we hang on to it, and we're not ever given too much or too little. They give us the things we need to know, and it goes on. It's a matter of necessity. Like, okay, that last dialogue where Fletcher's talking about it, that's the first time we get sort of a kind of sense of empathy for him. A kind of like, all right, I'm starting to see where you're coming from. But we never get that, like, for the first 2/3. So why did we care at that point? It's because there was never a point where somebody stopped and said, yeah, he's always been like this. You know? I agree, dog. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is that Whiplash is a success and a movie that a lot of people love because its information is not dumped on us. It is fed to us, I guess. All of its visual cues, all of its dialogue, it's all subtlety. That's why it works. Exposition is the opposite of subtlety, and to me, in most cases, subtlety is the opposite of good film narratives. I would say there are plenty of exceptions, but that's usually where I'm at as a guy who watches movies and also sometimes directs them myself. Subtlety is important, and exposition is the opposite of subtlety. It's such an easy way of just dumping stuff over it, you know? Judge Captiville, what do you think so far? Are you coming to any conclusions, or are we just like running in circles?
I'm keeping it till the end. I'm taking notes. I've got a whole thing going. But how much longer do you?
Well, I would like to respond to the Whiplash.
All right, yeah, thing. His rebuttal. Hey, this is actually becoming like a real debate.
Cool? Weird. It's like our debate episodes are actually like debates.
Debates.
Weird.
What?
How did that work? Okay, here's the thing. I agree with you. Although I agree that one of the brilliances of Whiplash is that the information is minimal and the momentum is the real star. Although, to be fair, the real reason, in my opinion, why Whiplash is brilliant is because its momentum never ceases. But the thing about your explanation is we do get exposition. We get that scene with Fletcher. And I think Andrew's name?
I think it's his name, yeah.
Okay.
This is kind of sad. This is the most problematic part of the movie.
His name isn't really dropped many times. It's said like twice.
I think it was Andrew, yes. Andrew something.
They have that scene, and you learn about Fletcher. You learn about him. You learn about his philosophies, his stories. And you know what? That is exposition.
Yeah. However,
I'm not done.
Okay, yes, it is exposition.
You got your time. I'm getting mine. All right. But here's the thing, though. You're right. We have not gotten it until then. And to be fair, I'm saying exposition can be any time. Exposition doesn't have to be in the beginning to be good or bad or whatever. It can be any time you want. That is a great scene. Why? Because we know these characters. I love watching J.K. Simmons. His presence is just there. You feel it. So listening to him talk, I like it. He delivers his lines brilliantly. There's a story to be told. There's an ambiance that is just so nice and relaxing, which, for those of you who haven't seen Whiplash, is not a word to describe it. It's great. It's a great scene. And you know what? Guess what? There's exposition. I'm hearing a story being told. But guess what? I don't care because I'm enjoying myself. I'm listening to a story, right? And I'm hearing this man dump his feelings onto this character, and we're learning more about him in the process. And I understand we learned plenty about him in the beginning, but just because he's telling us doesn't mean I'm necessarily getting less enjoyment out of learning about him if he. But
what about those first 2/3 of the movie? All up to this point, we have never heard a thing about this guy.
Okay, but even so, they are taking a moment to tell us. It's still being told to us. If that scene wasn't there and we kept going, I would understand your argument, but the exposition is still there. Whether or not the exposition is in the beginning or more towards the end, it's still an explanation of what's going on. We could have gone through an event and gotten explained what that event meant, as opposed to knowing what the event's going to mean and then the event happening. It's still exposition. It plays the same purpose.
Yes, but as at that point, it was also that exposition was also used to set up the main climax of the film, which I will not spoil for those who haven't seen the film. But that climax in that exposition dump is basically made in tangent to each other. They're like exposition does more than just give us a bunch of information, it sets up the big finale, which is so important. Now, to jump on to another movie that I think a lot of you have actually seen for, let's see, actually, I think one of the people who does exposition the best way is Pixar. There are two movies I can think of. One is Finding Nemo. Now, I love Finding Nemo. Do you love Finding Nemo, Larry?
Of course.
Do you love it, Judge Captiville? Now, Finding Nemo.
You didn't let him answer.
Oh, yeah. He nodded his head.
That's the danger of being in the same room. Stuff like that might
Come
start
on,
happening.
guys. Come on.
Hey, it's visual. I understood it without him saying anything. Bam! Anyway.
does it?
Finding
Nope.
Nemo opens with one of the darkest scenes in Pixar's history. A guy has his wife and children eaten. That's really screwed up.
Can I do a joke in bad taste? And Larry, could you insert the song Barracuda into the next sound of silence?
Anyway, what I mean is that would it have made any sort of would it have made an impact if instead of that 2/3 through the film Marlon explains why he's so nutty and so why he's so paranoid about everything? I think it would have made it worse. We got to see all that happen. We got to feel for him. It's a famous story where Andrew Stanton wanted to put in that scene wanted to put that dump of exposition in in 2/3 into the film. And then the Pixar storytellers were like, no, dude, we got to put it at the beginning so we can set up an empathetic protagonist.
The former would have worked a lot better.
What? No, it wouldn't have. It would have made us not care about Marlon at all. And then finally it's like, oh, okay, that's why he's so paranoid and so, neurotic about everything. To me, the fact that we saw it at the beginning without a single word of, what happened, do you notice that they never mention this again? That we just see that all instead of Marlon always bringing up, oh man, when I just got married or whatever, my wife got eaten, my wife and all my children got eaten.
My wife got eaten.
All we know is that scene, and that influences our perception of the character. Instead of bringing it up again and again to set up why this character is who he is, it's just visual. My second example. Would people have loved the first half of WALL-E so much if it had a single bit of why the Earth is what it is? The first half of WALL-E is entirely visual storytelling and not a single word of exposition. You understand everything without hearing a word. You understand the conflict, you understand the character, the setting, what the character is,
Max,
all the stuff.
Max, are you forgetting the news reel that they show in the beginning, which explains why WALL-E even exists?
Don't remember.
That is a piece of exposition. That is giving. Now listen, Max. Now listen. I'm good. Hold on. No. Stop. Max. I agree with you. WALL-E's visual storytelling in the beginning is great.
Did WALL-E really begin with an exposition dump?
It did not begin with an exposition dump. That word is annoying me. It's not a dump. It was simply a detail.
It was a breakup.
WALL-E is a robot that was originally meant to collect garbage because the world was full of it. But guess what? When we get on the ship and we start learning, I am interested. Now, here's the thing. Why did I say that flashback from Finding Nemo would have worked better if it was maybe later in the film? Here's why. If we got Marlon as this completely neurotic, annoying father, right? We wouldn't have liked him, sure. But with all the scenes that Marlon is calmer and a little less rude, perhaps that hatred would have been a little lessened. But here's the thing. If we had gotten that explanation later in the film with that scene, it would be similar to how Whiplash happened. Or it would have been similar to how another great film that does something like this, Snowpiercer, how that happened. We would have gotten an explanation that makes the character, that gives us empathy. For those who don't know,
I don't want to do Snowpiercer because there's a whole.
Well, I know, but I just for people who haven't seen it, I just want to mention what the scene actually is. Essentially, the main character Curtis, we get the backstory of what Snowpiercer's plot is, which is through text, which admittedly is not the best way to I wish they would have done that a bit more visually. But essentially, at the very end of the film, when things are at the lowest and just it's clear that things are not looking up for them, Curtis just unleashes this huge backstory about him and the crazy and this terrible deed that he did. And I'm not going to say it, but that is the best scene in Snowpiercer, in my opinion. That scene where Chris Evans is just giving emotion and crying and admitting he did this. It makes the character great, in my opinion. That emotion, the delivery, that's great.
All right.
Just like Whiplash.
I had to break this out. I don't know why I'm on Pixar, but they're just like, they're great movies, and they're also great ways of explaining why certain things work in film and why they don't. Judge Captiville. How does Up begin?
Newsreel.
Shut up, Sean.
It does.
Oh, well, it does. Oh, yeah, it does!
Charles-
It does!
Charles Muntz is getting on his blimp with the dogs. It cuts to Carl as a kid.
Okay,
It does!
yes, that's true, but that's not as in your face. That's just a setup for a different conflict. The main conflict of the story, it's what if you had taken out all that part with love, all that prelude to Carl Winslow, that part that makes you cry, Sean, and hadn't just explained it 2/3 into the movie.
Okay,
It's like,
Max.
I had a wife.
Okay, two things.
We loved each other, and then
Okay, we've already talked a lot about Up's beginning. You can watch the last episode for that. Two things. One, Up's opening is one of the most... Let's all agree. Up's opening was an anomaly when it came out. Like, nobody had ever seen an intro like that was so...
That's not true.
Yes, it was.
It's a very good opening, but it's not... But that's not like... It wasn't a brand new thing.
Oh
It was
my
the
God.
fast
Can you think of any other opening in a film that does what Up does? That well? Can you?
I feel like that's kind of an unfair question, like on the spot and like,
Yeah,
Okay,
like,
fine.
I have not seen every film, so I
admittedly
can't.
so, but Up is just. I feel I'm not going to say Up is a special case because nothing about it really makes it. Besides the fact that it's animated, nothing about it really makes it a special thing. But
everything about Up makes it special.
yes, okay, yes. But the thing is, Up is a very special film. It's
Exception.
It has a very special opening. It is an opening that, in my opinion, is like pretty. It's kind of incomparable to several other films. It's animated, and you know what? Let's be honest. The details given through Up's opening, they're pretty. I mean, not the emotions, the details, the main plot details. They're not exactly hard to visually give to us. They get married, they're in love,
I think
there's
the
a
fact they did it
miscarriage,
anyway,
they're
it makes
sad.
an emotional impact, such a hook,
Yes.
is precisely why people love it so much. I mean, other than all the other good things it does, obviously.
Yes, but it starts with exposition, Max. It starts with a newsreel that discusses what Charles Muntz is.
But the exposition dump is okay. I'll say that it is an exposition dump, but it's not the main one. I guess I forgot.
Okay, you know what? I'm just gonna. The Up thing is basically what Max is trying to say is that that's a minor conflict. The major conflict was not given.
I know, but it's still there. It's still an
Yes, it's still there,
exposition,
but it's
and
not-
it gives
it's
us
not setting
details.
up-
Yeah. I'm just gonna drop Up off the table because I'm sick of it.
Okay, fine. Here's
Fine.
another example, Larry. If at one point in any of the Toy Story films had the toys explained why they come to life, would that have made a difference? Would that have made it better? Would that have made it somehow less magical?
That's
not the right word.
okay. That, in my opinion, is not a detail that the entire movie revolves around. I mean, it does revolve around the fact that they come to life, obviously, but the reason they do, that's not really established in the universe. That's not a detail. That
and it wouldn't
affects
have
it.
made, and that, like, having that established would have been bad.
Yeah,
if you
but
ask
that's
me.
not
It
the
would-
same. That's not the same. You can't put the backstory of like Lord of the Rings to like what's up with the ring to like why do they come to life. It's a detail that it's one of those details that people just have to live with. They come to life. Fish
See,
talk.
that right there, Larry. You have just pointed out why I don't like exposition. It's the details that people don't have to live with being explained when they don't have to be explained.
But some
It's
details do have to be explained, or else you're going to be absolutely lost.
Yes, obviously some things, but you can explain those through visual cues, through audible cues, through not ways of just telling the audience. It's just sometimes when, like, it's weird, Judge Captiville, that you would be, like, so quiet in this when your favorite director, Christopher Nolan, is known. You even told me this yourself, is known for expository dialogue. And
Sure.
it's good dialogue, but, like,
Yeah,
it still is very
great
expository.
dialogue.
The characters might as well just basically look at the camera and talk about their character motivations. I mean, really.
Please.
But like, hey, that's there's an audience for that, and I do enjoy Christopher Nolan's films. But like, essentially, what I find about exposition is that it flies in the face of all that what makes filmmaking unique and fun and enjoyable. Like, for example, Sean, you and I are going to watch Chicago later today.
Oh.
I've never seen it before.
Yes,
Is there a word of exposition that in any of the songs?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
There's a song.
I'm not asking for a no. I'm just asking.
There's a song. Well, I don't know. Not really. It's a fake story.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's hard to
Well,
explain. Chicago, the way that Chicago does its musical numbers is very interesting.
Yeah.
But
when
that brings up a
there's
good
a
point.
story.
The fact that sometimes films use exposition as something of like a trick, as like it's actually this, but actually it's another way of explaining character. Like, I don't think exposition is like unusable. I think you can use it in certain ways, but the way films are using it or have been using it is essentially just a way for us to just have to be assaulted with so much information. It's like actions speak louder than words. You know what I'm saying? That goes for people, and I think that goes for movies too.
I guess so, but I mean,
Okay.
it also in the grand scheme, you have to think about the idea that verbally telling stories is something that's been a concept for millennia, and it's just like you can't. I understand silent films and all that, but even silent films have words. You read the dialogue. It's like I don't feel a story. I don't feel a story can just be told without some sort of verbal cue. I have yet to see. I don't know. This might bite me in the butt, but I mean, I have yet to see a story that, in my opinion, perfectly, without any sort of verbal or written cue, tells a complete story that has a plot, that all the details are perfectly given. You completely get the plot. The theme is well constructed, and the characters are likable and enjoyable.
Pixar shorts, the one with the guy with the chess thing, just that, bam. Remember the one like with the guy playing chess with himself, bam. In fact, a lot of silent, like not silent, but like a lot of dialogue-less animated and live-action films do this because it's doable, it's possible, it's completely commendable.
Max, what's the story of that short?
Okay, you know what? I'm just going to cut this short. Now I'm getting the feeling like it's going in circles. I'm going to give your final arguments kind of for you, because it's pretty clear. Max, you already did your kind of repeat it a little while ago.
I do that.
It goes against the tenets of filmmaking and
The good things about it, I
Good
think.
things of filmmaking. Larry, your argument is not all the time, man. Come on. Okay, that might be a negative exaggeration, but am I getting the gist of it? Larry, you're saying it can be done well. Why do you just condemn it off the bat? Max says because it goes against
Subtlety.
these tenets of film.
Yeah.
Subtlety.
The tenets of narrative
done-
stotelling. I don't know about filmmaking, but film storytelling.
When
yes.
you know what I mean. Is that fair? Okay.
Yeah.
I wanted to end this because I felt like it was going in circles. So now I'll give my verdict. Let me just print up my notes because I got a lot of notes to give on each argument.
I appreciate the
Can you
fact you
hurry
gave
this up,
notes.
Judge Capdeville? The heat in this courtroom
Well,
is really
I don't
getting
want to
me.
open the window because then it's loud outside. So
It's so hot in here, Larry. I swear it's not like the heat that's coming out of my
Air
ears
conditioning, my
fingers.
friends. It's nice.
Is there air conditioning in here?
no.
No. Oh.
Anyway,
That's what this place is.
Realization.
so Max, a word of advice: don't go dissing Christopher Nolan if you want to win points with the judge.
I wasn't dissing him. I'm just saying that's how he works, and it's okay. You told me this. You said this to me.
Oh,
It's-
shh! I will throw you. Is contempt of court? Is that?
Yeah,
the,
that is.
I don't think that's the right phrase.
no,
but shush.
contempt of court is the.
The legal term is shut up. My mom's a lawyer. I learned all this legal lingo. You guys might not know what that means, but in Latin it means shh. So basically, just to get right to the point, for the most part, I will be siding with Larry.
Ah.
So here's some of the things I wrote down. So Larry, you started. I'm going to start with you because you do have some issues with the argument, but it kind of works itself out. And so you say that you don't mind the exposition and all this stuff if you like the world or the characters and all that. But then my question to you would be, well, doesn't that ignore the inherent value? Like, isn't that kind of avoiding the question of like, it's just stuff you like that makes it like super, what's the word? Not objective, subjective. All that, like that seems to be avoiding the question. However, the counter to that is this disproves Max's claim of it kind of like he's doing a much more blanket statement of like it's always bad, almost. I'm not trying to.
There are exceptions to everything.
Oh, I know.
so-
I'm not trying to over emphasize your thing. But that's basically kind of the gist of what you're doing. And so, Larry, that's fair. Whatever. And Max, one of your big things is show don't tell. And I've always, like, yes, show don't tell, it's great. However, it just sounds nice in theory.
I disagree.
No,
I think it's so important.
Here's the thing, though. Again, you can sit here as 20-year-old filmmaker who doesn't know what he's saying. Your own words. Mm-hmm. Your own words. I'm not...
Yeah, it is my own words.
And you can sit here on your podcast that you're recording with $30 microphones and say that. However...
Hey, man, they're $50.
Well, we got them at a deal at $30. They're actually normally like $80 or $90.
Yeah.
We got a good deal.
Hey, Sean.
Next time on how much do our microphones cost? But the point of this is, Max, that you can sit here and say, show don't tell, show don't tell. All my professors at the film school, they shout this from the mountaintops. I'm in Montana, there are a lot of mountaintops to shout from. Show don't tell, show don't tell. Sometimes it's just not possible. And that's the fact.
Yes, thank you.
That is the objective, undeniable fact.
Thank you.
Sometimes it's not possible. It's not. And that's kind of a lot of what this comes down to. And so it's great to say that in theory, it's a great tenet to follow. Sometimes, just not possible. And I want to bring up something about, Max, you're talking about world building. And the problem with world building is that it is vague. World building is very vague. It's the idea of, oh, did you hear about the like in Elder Scrolls series? We have no idea what happened to the dwarves, the Dwemer. They used to be there. We find their ruins and all that crap, but we have no idea. That's good world building. We know that they were there. This lost civilization. Cool. What if you need specifics? Like, what if you, as the audience, needs to know about this certain cult in the dwarven whatever? And if you're watching the movie, it's like, I didn't have that specific. So that's a problem with using the world building as a defense, is that it's vague, and exposition is the specifics. World building, by just referencing the Clone Wars, for example, that's not specific enough. We had a whole trilogy of films to explain in detail what that meant, because just Obi-Wan dropping Clone Wars was just vague world building. You kind of get what I'm saying there?
Sure.
Okay. And then, Max, you say that exposition is like a waste of time to like stop the plot and explain this stuff, where you also describe it as a dump of information, which seems to be very time efficient. So I'm just kind of confused on that little... It's a bit of disagreement.
That's true, but like, as in, there's a difference between stopping the narrative and then just getting it quick, like stopping the narrative and then just trying to push the narrative quickly through it. Like, instead of just like nicely pacing it out.
Did I say that the defendant could respond?
I'm not a defendant. I'm the defense. I'm the prosecutor, actually.
I don't know which. Oh yeah, I guess you're
the
like
prosecutor.
If
exposition is the defendant.
If exposition is on trial, you're the prosecutor. Oh, anyway, prosecutor. Anyway, Larry, I liked your point that show don't tell is much more prevalent to stuff like theme or character stuff like that.
Thank you.
Not necessarily story details. Now, there's kind of where I'd slightly agree with Max here is that there's kind of like a gray area where, okay, story details is a character's background. In that case, it can be a little clunky. Right. If someone's like, here's their background, and they explain it, where it's like, oh, but it's theme and character. That's not bad. Well, I mean, that is, there's a gray area when it comes to character background. That's just one gray area I've thought about right now. There might be more, but I like the idea of it's more important to communicate your theme through like characters, their actions, or, different traits shared by the character, stuff like that, instead of just telling it to the audience. Don't put the PSA at the end of your film. Do it with your characters, do it through story, all that. So I like that point. See, the cat agrees with me. Don't know if you could hear him, but he was just meowing at me. Max, it seems to me that, okay, you know what, I'm going to back up a little bit and say that the show don't tell, Max, you kept saying, like, this is a film tenet, this is so important for film, and film alone, in textual mediums, it's just not a thing you have to worry about, right?
Yeah.
Okay, here's the problem. It does apply to textual stuff. I'm writing up something right now that I won't go into details with, but there's some information that's needed to be said. And I was messaging the co-creator of this thing, and I was writing out, and I asked him, okay, like, I don't have room for this scene. And he said, well, just have this character, tell the other character about it. And not only did that character not know, but that's not important. The more important thing is that for me, that rang the alarm bell of, wait a minute, show don't tell. Even in literary, I don't want to hear some, character say, and then this happened, this happened, this happened. As the author, I want to describe it. I want to describe it to the audience. So I think show don't tell isn't just necessarily film. And also, just a side note, How to Train Your Dragon 2 did an exposition dump backstory, by the way. We just saw it.
I'm not saying that they didn't have an exposition dump.
Anyway,
certain parts.
You do have a point, though, Max. Exposition is overused to compensate for bad story. As in, like, the character says, here's what blank character is thinking. However, it's important, and okay, I'll kind of wrap back to that anyway. Max, I'm afraid you're delusional. It's one point.
Delusional?
Yes.
Delusional?
You cannot.
I feel like Sean, just like in general, like the relationship between Sean and Max could just be said in that one statement. Max, you're delusional. That's
look,
perfect. Key phrase.
Right, but you can't honestly tell me. This goes back to what I was saying about the whole show don't tell. You can't honestly say that it's always able to be, showed visually, or it can never be done in exposition. Like, it's always better, it's always possible. Come on, guys, come on, you can do it. And you're waving your checkered flag. I don't know. And you talk about stuff like, this backstory being laid down and like this exposition stuff. But you know what? Backstory's interesting. I just wanted to bring that up.
We don't
have to be shown it. We can be told it. I find it interesting.
Yeah.
And you also call it the easy route. And this goes back, sometimes it's the only route. Unless you really want to shut down the story. We were talking about the Lord of the Rings opening. It's like, what's the alternative to having that opening sequence, which you don't like so much because it's just kind of a dump.
Yeah. Entertaining, but still dumb.
What's the alternative? The hobbits are walking over to Rivendell, and Aragorn's like, guys, Isildur, who I'm totally not related to, it was corrupted by the ring, and there was this elf. Like, is that really what you want? That would really grind the film to a halt.
I would actually think that it would be interesting if we saw that without a narration. If we just saw the conflict happening, just visually shown, but that would with the
opening. I say you could respond.
I do that. Well, actually, you kind of prompted him.
Well, no, that was rhetorical to myself, which I then answered. That's not something we do. I think you both are in the wrong about one thing. Sorry, I'm kind of going through chronologically. So one thing you guys brought up was exposition. Exposition is about what we need to know. It's about necessities, all that. I say you're both wrong there. Stop thinking about this as what you need to know. What about what we want to know? I don't need to know a lot of background stuff, and I can get the character just as well. But it's interesting to have this background. It's an added layer. It makes it more rich and interesting. But it's not needed to understand the plot or even characters or even theme. But it's just nice. It's just a nice layer. And this kind of stuff applies more to television, where there's kind of more time to do unnecessary in terms of like you guys were saying, necessity to plot and character, all that. But it happens in movies every once in a while too. I like hearing stuff like this. It's interesting. So I think both of you, kind of sinned in my courtroom.
Yeah, okay, I agree
thinking
with
about
that.
it as a necessity. Sometimes wanting to do exposition, do it. I want this information, and if you can only do the exposition, go for it. And Max, I had to really stop myself. Whiplash isn't Lord of the Rings.
What?
You can praise the small indie drama about the musician for not doing exposition, but Lord of the Rings isn't
epic. What does this
epic.
have to do with anything?
There are thousands of years of history. You can't say, look, Whiplash didn't have to do it. Come on, Lord of the Rings, get with the
I'm more talking about
program.
how the fact that Larry is for exposition, even though his favorite movie of last year did not have
But it's a
any of it
contradiction,
outside of that
but
one
it doesn't
dialogue.
help your argument.
That's also
Because
not true,
brought
Max.
up-
It had other
But you
scenes of
brought up this
exposition.
incredibly, Larry, you too, I did not seek a response.
Just saying he's wrong. There are
Well,
other
yes,
scenes.
I agree with you 98% of the time on that statement.
Oh no, well, whatever.
Okay.
You know what I mean. There are other scenes of exposition in Whiplash besides that one. Sorry.
Right. So, and Max, you kept bringing up this idea of subtlety, and I would just like to say, Max, a key problem you have with your approach to exposition is that exposition is subtle a lot, but you wouldn't call it exposition. You don't dislike exposition, really. You dislike bad exposition. Obi-Wan's talk to Luke about the dark times, about the Empire, about his father's lightsaber, he was the best pilot in the galaxy and a good friend, all that. That is exposition.
Yep.
Yeah,
It
that's
is.
true.
That is.
Yeah.
But
Sometimes
it's
it can-
subtle, and it's interesting, and it's good. You're saying all exposition is bad. It's like me going to a grocery store that closed, months ago, and looking at the fruit section and saying all fruit is bad. It's rotten fruit, Max. You keep looking. Your definition of exposition only allows bad exposition.
Food analogies.
That's
what do you mean?
That's what I said. Some exposition
But
is dialogue,
That's
and
what
it
I
works.
think my huge problem with your argument, Max, is your definition of exposition only allows for bad exposition. That's how I would sum it up.
All right, whatever.
That's the
And
point
what's
I've been
funny is
making
that you
since the
kind of
minute one.
went a little contradictory when you said, "Yeah, it's awesome we get to see the Finding Nemo opening. It wasn't just told to us." And I said, "But wait a minute, didn't you just say we shouldn't have been shown for 20 minutes the Lord of the Rings opening, and you wanted that to be?"
But that was not so like. I mean,
it
again,
is crucial. It is though.
no, I'm not saying it's not crucial. I'm saying it's
How
just
could we-
delivered differently. It's not.
How
you know,
could we understand?
You're comparing Finding Nemo, this little Pixar film, to an epic. Am I right?
No, because this is about character. This is about Aragorn specifically. How do we understand him dealing with the fact that he has to go help the ring bearer and he has to be near this evil presence when we don't see Isildur fall to the same evil at the beginning? Like, this is important stuff for just character. It doesn't matter epic. This is a character arc thing. And so I feel like you said, yeah, it's great that right at the beginning they took time to show us this character's background. Aragorn's a very important character. And that links to, well, of course, there's more history. And my main argument would definitely fall to you want to know the history. However, the character stuff does definitely apply there. And so I think it's a little contradictory of you to say, hooray, Finding Nemo, boo, Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings delivers like its backstory. Marlon is just Marlon's backstory is just all visually told. It's not just Kate Blanchett. I thought there was like a different way of saying it. It's not just her just talk like it's not just like Marlon like saying like when I was when I was just married or whatever.
But here's a counter argument to your Marlon argument where it's like get a relatable character. Couldn't it be argued if it's like, well, why? Maybe you shouldn't rely on the backstory for empathy in your character. Why don't you do modern stuff to make stuff as the audience is watching to make you care? If you can pull that up, you have an added element of mystery.
Yep.
Why is he so protective? Why is it all this? That's something Finding Nemo doesn't have.
Yeah, that's why I said that it might be better if that flashback had been in the next third.
In my opinion, that opening scene is great, and it works very, very well. And it would be difficult, but definitely not impossible, and maybe just as difficult as properly pulling off that heartbreaking opening scene to keep it a mystery and kind of still make him a likable character and reveal later. So I'm not saying that it's the right path. I'm saying it's definitely there, and there's an argument to be made to why that would work. If you wanted the mystery route, that would be the way to go. And that would be, kind of a argument against you praising that opening. Also, just Wally's opening is really obvious in what it's set up. It's a cliche of like mad and ruined.
Yes, that was me. I made a mistake. I hadn't seen the film in years, so I made a mistake.
And Toy Story I really it pissed me off when you were like, "What Toy Story? What if they didn't explain? Like,
yes, I'm telling you, man.
What if they had been? It would have been stupid.
It's so different.
That's a supernatural element of the plot. It's not a main plot detail.
Why are you letting Larry talk this up when you shoot me down?
I'm trying to wrap this up.
You're taking a
In
while.
conclusion, Larry, you said some things I disagree with, and you made some arguments that I like. The whole it's about necessity that I disagree with. But Max, I think your approach to exposition is unhealthy. I think you need to consider more things as exposition because they are. Like the Luke Obi-Wan talk, just a prime example. That is exposition. That is exposition. That is, they stop the plot, they have a scene. See, that's the thing. It is so obviously a break because this droid is like, I need to talk to Ben Kenobi. I need to talk to Ben Kenobi. They rush off, and then they get to his house, and they break for a scene, and then they play the message. You want to know what happens in that scene? Before the Dark Times, before the Empire. They do pause the story. They just screech to a halt to be like, before the Dark Times, before the Empire. Then we get to, help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope. It's exposition. But you like it. It's good. It's necessary.
Again, it can be a matter of just like dialogue, subtleties, and whatnot, and set and structure.
Exactly.
It can't just be as simple as that.
You view exposition as the opposite of subtlety. That's wrong. Subtlety is a part of exposition if done well. And so you need to realize that a lot of things that you think are subtle, not exposition, it's subtle exposition. Subtlety isn't removed, it's there, you just don't consider it.
But that's such a cop-out for me to say, I'm just against bad exposition. I'm also against bad food and rotten fruit and bad movies. I'm against those things.
It's not a cop-out when I'm saying it. No, seriously, you're not defending your case. I'm addressing why you've been thinking this way and why you should change your thinking of this way. It's not a cop-out. Here's why I think your argument's wrong, because I think you're thinking of it wrong. That's not a cop-out. But anyway, that's my closing statement. I think exposition can be very well done. I think there's a huge variety of if it's good or bad, if it's the best part of the movie, like Harry Potter Deathly Hallows Part 1, in terms of Hermione's backstory with the Deathly Hallows. Best part of the movie, I will not hear an argument against it. I love that sequence. Or it can be just really awful, like a character just sits in front of the frame and is like, here's character motivation and backstory, okay, moving on.
Like in The Last Airbender, for example. That's a great example.
No.
Yep.
That's like 2 lines. I agree.
You're
like, that
against me.
could've
I'm going to destroy. I'm going to tear Nolan apart then.
I agree that those 2 lines could have been written a little more subtly, but it's 2 lines. Come on. But anyway, that concludes our debate. Larry, unless you got something like final told you so to say to Max, I mean,
Well,
Cat,
oh my
stop knocking
god,
down
jeez,
my
what is
stuff.
going on?
the cat is knocking down my Cheerios.
I keep saying, hey, can we let the cat out? And you're like, no, we can't.
Because we're almost done recording. Come here, buddy. He's being cute. He's calming me down a little.
Okay, let's end this so we can let this poor guy out.
So I think that wraps up the debate. Point goes to Larry. Woohoo. So, yeah, tune in next week for something. I'm not sure what. I think we're 2 episodes away from Jurassic World review.
Mm-hmm.
But
No, it's 1 episode.
All right, well, tune in. I think.
Yeah, next time is Jurassic World review.
Okay, tune in next time for the Jurassic World, which I'm getting excited for, but I'm very, I'm kind of.
Let's see how the Exposition's delivered in that freaking movie.
Way to end it on a negative note.
Thanks, Max.
Until then, my name is Sean.
My name is Larry.
And my name is Max.
And you know what we just did, guys? You know what we just did? We just dumped a lot of information on the listener about our names. Just did some exposition.
I have become the very monster I set out to destroy.
Yep. Our intro and outro, exposition. Live with that, Max.
Wonderful.
Live with that.
I'll live with that. Alright, let's move on. See you guys.
That's it.